Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is January 13th, 2014. And this is the KNKL Show, episode 151, I do believe. Yes, 151. This is the Mew of the KNKL Dailies. I'm your host, Kenan Lafferty, and today is usually what we call Emma Monday, but today I'm going to call it Taking Care of Business Monday, because we're going to be talking about some of the freelance work that I've been doing and the things that I'm catching up on, right? I'm taking care of business, getting work out of the way so we can jump back into our beloved comic. But before we get into that, I need to tell you about a couple things. Speaking of the comic, the latest page was released on Saturday. So if you haven't gone and checked it out yet, go do that, and you'll be happy and prosper in the land. Next up, Patreon, same thing. Keep it short and simple. If you help me reach 175 bucks, I'm going to send you this print. All that good stuff. You can check that out, patreon.com/Emma. Lastly, we're doing another share and win. We just finished a share and win. We're doing another. And I'm having you guys basically choose your fate. This is on the KNKL Facebook. Simply pick A, B, or C. Print that on a 3x5 card. Share and win. Also, patrons, you can guarantee that you're a winner if you pledge on Patreon. All right, let's get that crap out of the way, and let's jump into the reason why I know you came. The reason why I know you came. Okay, so, and that would be business. So let's talk about business. So for those of you who have been following me for the last few weeks, you will know that I'm working on an iPad, or it's just like a mobile games app called Pauldron, which is really cool. It's sort of like a motion comic type deal where you're following in the footsteps of the Sir Knight, this man named Marcus, and he's telling his story. And I'm in charge of putting together these sort of like comic panels, but they're parallaxing and they animate. And I've gone into a couple dailies showing you guys how I go about doing this. And if time allots, or if time allows today, I will actually do a panel for you guys. But this is basically just showing what happens with these panels. So I've gone ahead and I've time-lapsed my work today, because this is what I did today. And I'm going to show you that. So let's go ahead and get into that. And I'll pause it every now and then and just talk about various things. I did, however, finish the first one over here with the mace and the bloody mask. So we're just going straight into the other ones. So the way that I like to get started on these is obviously, like you'll notice right down here, I always talk about starting thick. Start thick with that chalk brush. It is your friend. You don't have to like make everything look perfect. You don't have to draw all the details first. Start thick and be like, okay, yeah, there's going to be a guy here and maybe a guy here. You know, and then just kind of get a general idea for the composition. I think that's really what I'm going for here. Then what I'll start doing is I go in here, now I start refining things, start line sculpting, start creating a little bit more of a finished piece. And the panels themselves, I mean, these are still in very kind of a rough stage, because I want my client to still be able to say, oh, hey, I like this, but maybe I saw it from a different angle, or maybe we could add this or take this away. You know, so that way, you know, it's really heavy in the iteration stage. You don't want to put a ton of work into something and then just have somebody scrap it, you know? So it's really good to just really quickly convey a feeling or just a vision of what you're trying to go for. That way you can very quickly say yay or nay. So I'm putting together, and man, I freaking love drawing horses and knights and medieval things, because, I mean, it sounds kind of sarcastic me saying that. But in a way, it is pretty awesome, because I'm not comfortable drawing these types of things. I haven't drawn these things very much. Like armor, got a little bit more comfortable with since working at Riot and drawing things like, you know, Redeemed Riven and all the awesome armor designs that Larry Ray did, who is the creator of Zack. Working with him, he was so good at making armor. So he taught me a lot of his skills and passed them down to my humble artist mind. So, but horses, man, like, it's not so much that I don't like drawing horses, but I'm actually kind of scared of horses. I think I have like an unnatural fear of horses, because they're like big and like their muscles are all bulging. Have you ever been like next to like a real horse and like their muscles are just bulging, they're veiny, and you're like so scared that they're gonna like bite you, or if you're behind them, they're just gonna like kick you in the face and like knock your head off? I don't know why, even though they're such gentle creatures. Today I actually saw a horse. It was really cute. Like it's snowing here in Utah. And there's like, we live in kind of on the boonies, so it's like there's a bunch of farmland everywhere, and there's these people with these horses, right? And there was this horse out there in the snow, and it was like rolling around in the snow. It was like trying to make like a snow angel or something. And it was pretty dang cute. It kind of reminded me of my dog because it always like rolls over when it wants you to like scratch his tummy. So I was like, oh, well, that's a cute little horse. But I'm still not going to get close to it. It's going to kick my head off. So I didn't fall for that. I didn't fall for that. He was trying to lure me over by being like, oh, look, I'm just a cute little innocent horsey, you know, rolling around in the snow. But really, we know what he wanted to do. He wanted to kill. He wanted to kill and murder me. So I didn't fall for that. But anyway, getting back to what we're talking about here. Doing the paralaxing. Paralaxing is really fun. And it's a feature that a lot of people don't really know about in Photoshop. In fact, I didn't know about it until one of my coworkers showed it to me. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool that you can do that, kind of After Effects-y. And just after doing a little bit of kind of trial and error, this is where I'm basically scrubbing the animation. I'm looking at how the layers are going to kind of parallax over each other. And I'll show you guys that. Actually, I can show you that right now. I will show you that right now. Let's pull up the animation interface. Let us pull that up and do some nice things with it. Okay, so animation right there. And for those of you who are curious, I just clicked Window and then went down to Animation up in the thing. So this is the little scrubber. This is what allows me to kind of go back and forth and just look at how the layers are going to basically parallax over top of each other. And you can see all my things are set up right here. See, this is frame 4. You kind of knock that down, and you got, you know, the hands in the front. Here, let me minimize that for a second. So you got the hands in the front, Marcus, the stand, the crowd. So everything is on its own kind of individual layer. A good way for me to kind of explain this is, you remember back when you were playing like Sonic the Hedgehog or just any of those old 2D side-scrolling Genesis or Super Nintendo games? This is basically what they did. They had the backgrounds just on a bunch of different layers, and then as your character runs through them, they all move and kind of parallax over each other at a, you know, at a relative rate. So it gives the illusion that you are existing within a 3D world. And really, it's just a bunch of like paper cutouts that are just moving over top of each other. It's really, really cool. Go back and check out, go back and play Sonic the Hedgehog or any of those old, good old-fashioned games and see what I'm talking about. So that's basically the illusion that I'm creating here. And yeah, it's giving the perception of depth in kind of a 3D world when really it's just good old-fashioned trickery. Good old-fashioned trickery. So yeah, I really like the animation scrubber. Really helps to kind of just look at things. You can kind of just move it back and forth and see how things are working for you. And that's all good and fun. So let's go ahead and continue with the time-lapse. So yeah, and I just focus on one panel at a time. Well, I drew all 4 out like really quickly. Like, okay, this is basically what's going to happen within this 4-panel set. I think it's almost kind of like a magical number for me. I feel like it's really good to just work in 4 panels at a time. Like, well, working with this. On the comic, I usually do a page at a time, but even with the comic, I like to lay down at least like 5. Before I was doing 10 pages at a time, right? Because it's like, hey, I got to do this whole part. But as of late, each page of the comic has been becoming its own kind of production. So it's, I mean, the quality is increasing, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it's like I'm trying to balance a lot of things, you know? It's not like right when I quit the job at Riot, I had money to go, and basically I was working full-time, even though I wasn't making any money off the comic yet. But I was able to do a lot more, and the quality, you know, wasn't as perfected, right? The process was not as good, and the backgrounds for sure. I think the backgrounds is probably the single biggest improvement that I've made with the comic. I'm really happy about that. So anyway, okay, but getting back to this. So you can see basically how I go through and I just kind of clean these things up. I'm not worried too much about detail or any of that stuff. I'm just basically kind of sculpting in and putting in the values to create this man here. I'm focusing on one thing at a time. So it's like, okay, I know where everything is going to be placed. Let's go ahead and draw Marcus here. Let's kind of warp him around a little bit. Got the background. Everything was on its own layer. And I was like, okay, well, we need one more thing in front of him. And he's basically surveying the crowd. He's like, he's the bodyguard of the king. So he's like, you know, just like checking everybody out, you know, making sure there's not any, you know, funny business going on. So I thought it was really cool to just kind of have it within this crowd and he's kind of standing above everybody, like he's on like some, you know, support beam or something, or like a little, I don't know, just something that raises him above the crowd. Kind of checking everybody out. And yeah, now I'm just parallaxing everything, making sure everything looks right. And I think that's about it. Yeah, just kind of clean up the hands. And I really like it. I like it when the whole illusion kind of comes together because I can really see it. Oh, and the other thing I want to tell you guys about is I was working on the 2634 rule. for those of you who don't know what that is, I actually work for 26 minutes and then I rest for 34, and I'll read a book. Right now I'm reading, where the heck is it? Right now I'm reading Think and Grow Rich, but I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is. Right now I'm reading Think and Grow Rich. I really like this book. It's kind of cool. Some of the verbiage and kind of the way it's written is kind of old-timey, so it gets a little bit boring in some parts, kind of talking about the old steel industry and, you know, just all that stuff. And it's cool, but, you know, I actually just recently finished another book that was absolutely amazing. Blink. Blink was another book. It took me a while to read that one. I started, took a break, and then came back to it. Anyway, okay, so that is another conversation for another time. So that's all the work that went into making that panel thing. So now, what I'm sure you guys want to see is, let's make one right now. Let's make one right now. All right, let's see how far we can get into it. If anything, we can just make a simple one. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is, I need to actually take this Photoshop file and save it as a new document. Oh yeah, and I totally forgot. Man, I hate it when this thing sticks out. You see the edge of my pillow, the edge of my Tempur-Pedic pillow? It just looks kind of weird. It's a area of high contrast where I just like gravitates to it. It's already bad enough when my bed's in the background. I mean, how unprofessional is that? Or maybe it's professionally inviting. Not to mention, my little niece was like playing in the pillows. She was like making a fort out of the pillows and like hiding in them today. So that's why my bed is a mess. Anyway, yeah, I forgot to ask you guys, how was your weekend? I hope your weekend was good. Hope you guys got some good value out of the Thoughtful Thursday. Discussed some good things in that, some things that have been on my mind for a little while now. And I'm really trying to save this thing. Okay, there we go. Okay. So, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this. I'm checking over here. Oh, and as far as announcements go, I do have a couple announcements. I am actually gearing up to begin going to a lot more conventions in the future. For instance, WonderCon, which is in Anaheim, California. I think it's in around April. I sent in an application to go to that, and they recently responded to me. Not necessarily confirming it, but I think it sounded like it was like a soft confirmation, like, hey, here's some more information. Register your name and your whatever on this thing, and we'll see what we can do for you, or we'll get in contact with you, and all that stuff. So, good stuff. Good stuff is on the horizon. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is let me show you. This is basically how I start. So these next few panels, what's going to be happening is this, I don't know how clear it is, but this is basically a guy getting knocked off his horse. He's like getting knocked off, and the lance is like splintering on him, or rather he's going this way. Like the lance is like hitting him and it's splintering. So I want to have like it's basically like a slow-mo. That's the best way for me to describe what these things are. It's like you just slow down time. So this guy is now falling off of his horse in a Matrix-esque slowing down of time. And then we've got, actually, this is going to be Marcus's son kind of cheering, right? All the splinters and dangerous particles are flying by his face. And then he's looking up, and Marcus is like standing over him with a disappointed look. And then this is the intro to William, who is the handsome uncle. The handsome uncle. Oh, and while we're on this, let me give you some faces. Let me give you some actual faces to look at, because I did concept these as well. Let's go ahead and pull these up. Okay, so here's Marcus right here. That's Marcus for you. He is the bodyguard of the king. And then our friend William, the handsome man, the handsome uncle. That's William right there. So, oh, he's such a cutie. Oh my gosh. But he's basically kind of the ladies' man. He's the attractive, handsome man. Modeled his hair after myself, as you can tell. I was like, hey, Actually, no, my client said he wanted his hair like some other actor. It was just coincidentally that actor had copied my hairstyle. So, that's the faces that we're working with. Let's go ahead and get into this. Okay. So, but we're going to be focusing mostly on this guy. Let's focus on this guy getting knocked off his horse. Oh boy, this is going to be tons of fun because I hardly know how to draw these types of things. So usually I have like some bunch of Google references on the side, but I'm going to do my best for you guys, okay? I'm going to do my best. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and focus on this. Let's just go ahead and copy that, paste it down like that. And let's go ahead and get into this. Let's see what we can do. And this is either going to turn out really awesome or really bad. But like I said, oh crap, we've been going for 20 minutes. We've been going for 20 minutes. Alright, well, if anything, I can at least show you how I started. I don't know if I can get to the whole parallaxing thing, but I'll definitely get it started. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Alright. Yeah. Alright. So yeah, we got to show this guy. Basically what's happening is when you joust, you have the lance in your right hand and then your shield in your other to like deflect the other guy's lance away. So this guy is going to be getting hit like right in the chest. So naturally, this other arm is going to be like way out here. Probably just knocked the shield like straight out of his hand. So his hand is probably going to be like this. And he's going to be like, ugh, just getting knocked out. Just getting smacked around. You know, interesting fact that I learned today was the reason they call it a tournament is because the victor, you know, when the winner would be crowned, or basically in the tournament, you know, when they would collide, right, the winner would always turn at the end of the, you know, the standing, the last man standing would always turn at the end of the bout or the joust. So that's where tournament came from. Apparently, I mean, that's what I heard. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. That makes me sound really smart if I can say it without stuttering like I just did. So I was like, I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that sometime. Okay, so this guy's getting smacked off of his horse. And what I want you guys to notice is mostly just how I go about, again, sculpting. I've done this process so many times. You guys have, you know, you guys have probably seen this way too many times. And you're probably bored of it. But regardless, I'm going to keep showing it. Oh, and speaking of process, a lot of you guys have been asking that I reveal the ribbon, the high-res ribbon picture that was featured in my demo reel. And I do want to do that. In fact, that might be something that we're going to be going into tomorrow. A little bit more on creating faces, kind of painting, creating soft transitions, such as the ones you saw in the ribbon piece. And if you haven't seen it, then simply go on to my YouTube channel and just check out my new demo reel. It should just be KNKL demo reel 2014. It should be like 5 videos previous to whatever, you know, was last. So anyway, okay, so this lance is literally just like breaking right on him. So let's see. The other piece should probably actually be going up. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, let's have this other piece like going up. Let's pick a slightly darker color. Oh, just my shoulders. Just my shoulders. And all that good stuff. Okay. Oh, and I just realized, oh man, if this lance is hitting him, probably going to see a little bit of the horse's head here. So let's just kind of sketch in that shape really quick. Don't need to worry too much about it right now, but just as a little bit of a reminder, be like, yes, indeed, the horse's head should be appearing in this general vicinity. Okay, this guy is just getting smacked around. That was the other side of the lance. Let's get rid of that. And this guy is literally just getting knocked off his horse. So this is basically like the rear end of the horse, and he's just getting knocked off. Woo! And where's his lance going? Like if he got hit, his arm would literally, it'd probably be out like this. You know, it'd just be like, right? Imagine you got smacked by some dude like running 50 miles an hour at you on the back of a horse with a lance. Like you would literally, oh man. People died. People died back then from these things, man. Like this is no laughing matter. This is a man's sport, right? Man's sport. Anything that can kill you was a good man's sport back in the day. Okay, that's all right. It's feeling pretty good. As I've said before, it's a little bit harder to work with the lag of the stream. That's one thing that really bothers me. So I want a whole new rig. Whole new rig. Which I will have soon. Along with a new place. We should be moving into a new place within the next month. So, you guys may be seeing the new KNKL studio right before your very eyes. No more bed. Maybe something else. Maybe like some posters or standees of Emma. Or maybe the bed. I don't know. Depends on how much you guys like it. Depends on how much you guys like the pillows and the posters and stuff are definitely going to stay. But, you know, the rest of that stuff we're going to have to figure out. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to have to figure the rest of this stuff out later because this is looking a little bit crappy. But just goes to show you, you know? I don't just come in here and slap out a picture and be like, oh, that was easy. It looks perfect. No, there's a lot of things that need to be done. So anyway, I'm going to figure that out later. In the meantime, please cast your questions over the castle walls. I'll answer them. Specifically regarding freelance work, your weekend, anything that you have with that. There's another person calling me that should not be calling me during my showtime. And then we'll end episode 151, the Mew of KNKL Dailies. Oh man, in the meantime, let's see, what do I want to talk about? In the meantime, let me pull up that ribbon picture. For those of you who are curious, give you a little bit of a taste of what we're going to be going into tomorrow. Oh, yes, here it is. This is actually the proper one. Yes, this is the one right here. This was actually done probably in my last few days while I was working at Riot. This is when we were coming up with we were trying to streamline and make sure all of the champions looked the same, because basically when we were drawing skins and splashes for these champions, each artist would kind of have their own take on what that champion looked like. So we wanted to basically say, hey, look, let's come up with like a reference sheet for this is Riven's face, this is Katarina, this is Diana. And a lot of the artists were kind of basically picking their favorite champions, and of course I love Riven. So I was like, all right, I want Riven, give me Riven, I can see her face already. So yeah, they gave me this one, and that's what I was able to churn out, and I was really happy with it. Very, very happy with it. And we'll be going into the process that went into that tomorrow. All right. Phase Art is asking, I'm having a problem while drawing. I have it into his Pro, and I configured Photoshop for the way KNKL has said. But I'm drawing the first lines as intended with the pressure and color. This is a long question. Holy crap. Let me see if I can get the gist of it here. The color tends to get really dark really fast instead of continuing with like the pen pressure. Phase Art, that might be a brush that you're using. You might want to make sure that you're using the same brush that you're using with the line art. Other than that, I mean, it might just be something with the program. I'm not sure. Sorry about that. I'm not quite sure I fully understand the question. But let's go ahead and move on to Big Butt. And let's go ahead and end. Captain Big Butt is asking, do you have any references on color theory? In other words, going with fancy colors that match rather than giving your character weird colors such as pink pants with a blue shirt. As far as color theory goes, it's basically something that I kind of had to just figure out by doing it, right? It's just practice will make improvement. Practice will allow you to just gain the experience, improvement, and the best way to learn it is just by doing it wrong. I did color theory terribly, like when I was just growing up. I was like, hey, let's just throw a bunch of colors on here. And I think the biggest thing that I probably can give you as a start is just go back if you haven't seen the KNKL tutorial on the power of gray and hue shifting. That should give you a little bit of an insight into making interesting color transitions and interesting color palettes and all that good stuff. Someone 0956, apparently he sent me an MP4 for the question Catapult, I hope. If you do have an MP4 that I can use on the show, just link it to me on the Facebook, and we can talk about that a little bit later. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you guys for joining me live on the KNKL show on Twitch, as usual. You guys take care of yourselves. I'm super excited for this whole next week. We got some good stuff going on. Remember, the Choose Your Fate thing on the Facebook. Choose which one of the prints you want me to make for you guys for the next share and win. That is going to conclude at the end of tonight. So after that, results will be tallied. So you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.